So, welcome to week 2 of AP World History. And in this part, we are going to talk about the developments of South and Southeast Asia. And then we'll move on to developments in the Americas between the period of 1200 to 1450, modern period, or as we say in history now, Common Era. Okay, so developments in South and Southeast Asia. First of all, I would like to point out that the cat on this slide is not my cat. I actually don't really care much for cats. I don't want to offend all the cat people out there. I know you have a very strong sense of community, but yeah, I'm more of a dog person myself, but I thought it was cute, so I added the cat. Just a quick note. So anyways, that cat has nothing to do with our next topic. Now, the area of South and Southeast Asia, this is the area that we're talking about, like India, modern day, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. I'm probably forgetting some. I mean, we don't want to leave out like New Guinea or Papua New Guinea or any of the various areas. Okay, so there's a lot of countries over there. Predominantly right now we're going to talk about India and look at its early development. And this area certainly was heavily influenced by religion, especially the interaction between Hindus and Muslims, which still affects India today and certainly other areas. So these interactions, they were sometimes violent, but they also created a very dynamic culture, one in which you have a lot of developments in religious thought, politics, economics, art, architecture. And, despite the strong Islamic presence in the region, local Hindu kingdoms continued to play a major role in India's decentralized political landscape. A third religion will enter the picture called Buddhism, and it also had a strong presence in this area, particularly in the Sinhala dynasty in present-day Sri Lanka and the great kingdoms of Southeast Asia. So South Asia was only occasionally united as a single state in its history. Northern and southern India developed separate political systems. However, Hinduism provided some cultural unity throughout the region. Many people combine their own local faith tradition with adherence to the same scriptures and core beliefs respected throughout the region. Southern India tended to be more stable than northern India. Some of the strongest kingdoms before 1200s actually formed in the south. And these kingdoms tended to dominate the area. We have several very strong kingdoms that will develop at a time where actually northern India is struggling. Northern India experienced a great deal more upheaval than the south did. After the fall of the Gupta Empire, it became a fragmented area where you have many different kingdoms rise up. These were Hindu kingdoms, usually led by leaders of clans, and then all of these clans would then fight each other, and they were constantly at war with one another. Because of this competition among the clans, no centralized government arose. And once again, you find that India was really hard to unite because of its diversity and regionalism. And this lack of centralized power left these Hindu kingdoms vulnerable to this new Muslim attack that came from the West. In the early 13th century, Islamic forces managed to conquer the city of Delhi, and then they created a sultanate that will rule for 300 years, and we call this the Delhi Sultanate. The interactions of Islam and Hinduism in northern India dominated the political history of this time period. While some Hindus converted to Islam, others resented Muslims and considered them foreigners. It didn't help that the Sultanate passed a tax on non-Muslims, which also further caused resentments within the subjects of the empire. Throughout its reign, the Delhi Sultanate never organized an efficient bureaucracy. For this reason, sultans had difficulty imposing their policies in a land as vast and diverse as India. Despite the strong Islamic presence in the region, local kingdoms continued to play a major role in India's decentralized political landscape. The sultans wanted to extend their rule southward, but before they could succeed, they were threatened from the north they were weakened first by Mongol invasions and then later replaced in 1526 by a new Islamic empire called the Mughal Empire. So religion in South Asia has always held a dominant place in its history. It is one of the, especially, the pre-existing religion before Islam appeared was a religion called Hinduism. And it is the oldest religion still being practiced on earth today. And certainly it has one of the oldest holy books that was first compiled and written called the Rig Vedas. So this is a very rich cultural history with a very complicated religion. And as a result of it developing over thousands of years, you start to see some elements in India, religion rose hand in hand with politics and the social system. So when Islam arrives, it's quite, quite different religions meet up. And as a result, the history of India is marked by the conflict between Muslims and Hindus. Hindus pray to many gods, whereas Islam is strictly monotheistic. Hindu temples and artwork have these gorgeous, pictures of deities, lots of color, while Islam disapproves of any visual representation of Allah or Muhammad, or really people in general. Hinduism was associated with this hierarchical caste system, while Islam has always called for equality of all believers. Hindus recognize several sacred texts and holy books, while Muslims look to only the Quran for spiritual guidance. So since the early 13th century, this relationship between Hindus and Muslims really shaped the history of South Asia. And it continues to shape the region, especially in terms of culture and politics today. Islam initially entered India forcefully, yet eventually took on a more peaceful approach. But while Islam was a universalizing religion, one that wanted to proselytize or actively seek converts, Muslim rulers found early in their reign that forcing their Hindu and Buddhist subjects to convert was not successful. Thus, most converts came to Islam voluntarily. Many Muslim merchants in the Indian Ocean trade moved to Indian port cities and married. Their wives often ended up converting to Islam, their husband's religion. With this emphasis on the equality of all believers, Islam also attracted low-caste Hindus who hoped that conversion would improve their social status. In this sense, Islam in India was like Christianity in the Roman Empire. Both appealed to people who suffered the most under the existing social structure. The largest numbers of converts to Islam, however, were actually Buddhists. Corruption among the monks, raids on monasteries by early Muslim conquerors left the Buddhist religion disorganized. The spread of Islam helped make Buddhism a minority religion in its place of birth. So the arrival of Islam did little to change the basic structure of society. India had a caste system that was its longest standing tradition in history. And while obviously the caste system was unfair, it lent stability to a politically decentralized land. The caste system was flexible and able to accommodate newcomers. Muslim merchants and migrants, even though they were not Hindu, found a place for themselves within this caste hierarchy based on their occupation. These subcastes based on occupation operated like a guild or a union is what we would say today, soon becoming absorbed into the social fabric of Indian society. So at the same time, though, on the caste system, most of those who tried to escape the grip of the caste system failed. The low-caste Hindus who converted to Islam as a way to improve their social status usually did not achieve that goal. Individuals required more education and opportunities for better jobs, not just a new religion, to help them escape their low status in life. As Islam spread, Muslims varied how they applied its core teachings depending on their culture before converting. For example, Islam did not alter gender relations greatly. In South Asia, women in the Hindu tradition were confined to a separate social sphere, and Islamic women received similar treatment. In Southeast Asia, women enjoyed more independence before the arrival of Islam. This pattern continued as people became Muslims. Thus, converts in South and Southeast Asia found ways to accommodate a new faith, but most people did not reject their traditions in the process. Southeast Asia is made up of today the modern countries of Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. These areas were heavily influenced by both India and China. India had contact with Southeast Asia as early as 500 BCE. The merchants sold gold, silver, metal goods, and textiles in the region and brought back its fine spices. Trade voyages introduced the Indian religions of Hinduism and Buddhism to Southeast Asia. Much of the region became and remains today mostly Buddhist. The region, like Southwest Asia, was strategically important. Whoever controlled this region could influence the valuable trade between South Asia and East Asia. Many strategic sea-based kingdoms, land-based kingdoms arose in this area. One in particular was called the Khmer Empire, and their capital was in a place called Angkor Kingdom or Angkor City, and right here is a picture of one of their temples. It was an amazing empire. It had a complex irrigation system and drainage systems. It was very economically rich, making it one of the most prosperous kingdoms in Southeast Asia. Irrigation allowed farmers to harvest rice crops several times a year, and a drainage system reduced the impact of the heavy monsoon rains. The Khmer capital was at Angkor Thom. The temples there showed the variety of Indian cultural influences on Southeast Asia. Hindu artwork and sculptures of deities abounded, but at some point the Khmer rulers became Buddhist. Starting in the 12th and 13th centuries, they added Buddhist sculptures and artwork to the temples without destroying any of the Hindu artwork. Only a half-mile from the capital of Angkor Thom, rulers constructed the ornate and majestic Buddhist complex of Angkor Wat. In 1431, the kingdom was invaded, forcing the Khmers out. Nevertheless, ruins of this magnificent structure still exist today and testify not only to the sophistication of Southeast Asian culture, but also to the powerful influence of Indian culture on the region. Islam's movement into the Indian Ocean region paralleled its expansion elsewhere. The first Southeast Asian Muslims were local merchants who converted in the 700s, hoping to have better trade relations with the Islamic merchants who arrived on their shores. Islam was most popular in the urban areas at the time. Islam spread to Sumatra, Java, and the Malay Peninsula. Today, Indonesia includes more Muslims than any other country. Sufis also arrived in Southeast Asia. They did missionary work there. Because of their tolerance for local faiths, people felt comfortable converting to Islam. They could be Muslims and still honor their local deities.